One of the world's leading business thinkers, a guy called Clayton Christensen, says that if we don't solve the innovation paradox, a generation of people won't have jobs. This is Tonight. I'm Bruce Whitfield, and tonight I'm joined by McLean Sibanda, Chief Executive of the Innovation Hub, to find out how they're working to address the innovation deficit. It's all about innovation, isn't it? I mean, everybody, FNB, I think we can blame them. They started it by saying we have to innovate. But the 21st century is precisely that. No new ideas. We just need to make the old ideas better.
Absolutely, Bruce. Thank you for having us on the show. So, I mean, when we talk about innovation, it's all about making things better, improving on things that exist. But also there is groundbreaking innovations when there's radical innovations, brand new things that break through the mold. And so if you look at the world today and perhaps go back 100 years ago and look at what was there and what we have today, it's completely different.
But innovation is amazing, isn't it? Because innovation breeds innovation, and the 20th century has probably seen the biggest human advance in history, probably considerably more in one century than in any other millennium before.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we take a device such as a cell phone that we use every day, you count back 20 years ago, we didn't have really cell phone devices.
But you look at how, go across the African continent, and you look at how African families are prioritizing their household spend. Very close to the top of that household spend, if you look at the Maslows hierarchy of needs, the cell phone has leapfrogged into there, hasn't it? Because it is such a useful tool.
It is a useful tool, and I think therein also lies the opportunity for us as Africans to be able to innovate and move from just being users of the cell phone to actually preparing and actually developing material that then goes into those cell phone devices.
How good are we as South Africans, as Africans broadly, at innovating? We have a couple of great success stories, but it doesn't feel like we've got a pipeline of regular innovation performance.
We're not doing very badly. I think we've seen quite a number of interesting innovations come through in the last 20 years of our democracy and even before. We have what in essence has always been called the innovation chasm. And much of that is the ideas that are developed at research institutions or universities don't make it through to the market. Why? Because there's inadequate funding or inappropriate funding instruments. We look at a culture of innovation as well. It is not quite as widespread. We also look in terms of generally the skills that are required, not only to come up with the inventions, the ideas, but also to take those ideas through into the marketplace. And those are some of the things that we're working on at the Innovation Hub to say, how do we then bridge this particular gap?
But can you innovate in a desert? And I use the term, because you look at somebody like South Africa's best example of a great innovator, Elon Musk. Genius, but operating in a silo with very little sort of support around him. He needed to go to Silicon Valley, to that hub of global innovation, to get the support mechanisms, to get the inspiration, to get the teamwork that he required. You can't do it by yourself. You need support structures. And we have lots of very clever people doing things, but very little support around them. How do we solve that problem?
It's true, because we talk about a national system of innovation. And in that, we recognize the fact that innovation does not happen in a vacuum. You actually need various players. You need government, you need private sector, you need business, you need civil society, you also need the higher education institutions to be able to come up with the ideas. And I think within this African system, perhaps the system has not been as well refined as in the US, for example. So you look at what are the pertinent issues in terms of innovation. There's also a risk component, because there's an entrepreneurial component that comes in terms of somebody seeing the idea and seeing the opportunity and taking that particular risk. And so within the US, and if you look at Silicon Valley, there's a lot of venture capital, money there, but also the venture capital is not just money, it's also the skills to be able to go out and knock on doors to be able to make sure that those particular products make it through into the market.
So how are you helping to tackle the chasm, the innovation chasm?
So perhaps, I mean, let me just start off and say the Innovation Hub is an agency of the Gauteng Department of Economic Development. Our shareholder is the GGDA, Gauteng Growth and Development Agency. And we're set up in 2006 in our current location to be able to promote innovation within the province. And so we focus our business on 4 core areas. 1, entrepreneurship. Secondly, skills development. Thirdly, we look at fostering innovation. And then fourthly, we look at providing spaces for knowledge workers. We recognize the fact that entrepreneurship is everything. And therefore, we run a number of incubators in ICT, mobile, in green economy.
What are the big three innovations of since 2006? Name me the big three things that have come out of your hub.
So, I mean, since 2006, what we have, currently, one of the things that is actually happening right now in our hub is a company called Altis Biologics. And Altis Biologics is busy developing bone morphogenic proteins.
Okay,
so
I just need some subtitles over here to tell me what's going on.
So so in terms of Altis Biologics, is basically if you break your bone, you're able to then inject a paste that will then heal.
I like that.
To heal the bone.
And that's the South African innovation that's growing up within the hub. Yeah, what else?
That's growing within the hub. There's also a company called Expertron within the hub. They have developed, in fact, they're one of our first incubatees in the incubator, and they have developed, the prepaid method of dispensing, vouchers for electricity, and they've been busy distributing that in the townships. Currently, we have a company, quite interesting, coming out of the University of Pretoria, called Marty Diagnostics. And they've come up with a method of dictating TB. So it's a diagnostic for TB. But it's not based on the traditional methods of sputum. It's actually based on blood.
But what I'm loving is that these are South African innovations, homegrown for a South African environment. Yes. We're not going to compete with Apple. Let's not try to create the next smartphone, although there are some South Africans doing some amazing technological stuff. But actually, we've got some life and death innovations that are happening here as well.
Yes. Yeah, so I think when we talk about, and I think this is perhaps an important point in terms of looking at innovations coming out of South Africa. My view is that we need to focus primarily on solving the challenges that we face within the country.
Nobody else is going to do it.
No, but no one else will do it. And I think the danger that we make quite often is we want to compete, globally. So I think let's do it locally. Let's create the job opportunities locally. And then once we've done that, some of those innovations will have a bigger market. And the bigger market is not abroad, by the way. The bigger market is in Africa.
Absolutely. But we need to incentivize and reward the innovation. We have to incentivize and reward the innovators for staying here and solving these problems, don't we?
It's true. So one of the things that we started to do in the last 3 years is we now run a competition called the GAP competition, Gauteng Accelerator Program. And in there, we identify entrepreneurs and people with ideas. We bring them into our incubator and we assist them to be able to access funding. We assist them in developing their businesses further. We assist them in terms of access to market and reports and so forth. And I think that's really the support system that one requires. Funding becomes a problem, particularly when you're scaling things. I mean, the concept that came out of University of Johannesburg a few years ago for solar. University of Johannesburg developed a solar technology, photovoltaic technology, but it went off to Germany. Why? Because there was inadequate funding to be able to fund the full development of that particular innovation. And so, therefore, what we need as a country is to be able to look at the full value chain of the funding that is required, but also, secondly, we need to look at the regulatory environment and make sure that the regulatory environment is enabling. If the approvals that are required, they're actually made on time.
Are you finding fertile ground within government in terms of regulations? So, guys, you're actually restrictive. You talk about small business, you talk about innovation, you talk you say all the right things, but the moment guys like you come along and say, here's some great technology on photovoltaic power sources, and actually, no, we can't develop it because of reason X, Y, and Z. Are you finding fertile ground? Are we seeing innovation in the legislative environment to help?
So I think the good thing is we're finding more and more traction within government. Government is also taking a view, particularly the Gauteng government, to ensure that innovation is used to address service delivery challenges. And one of the other things that we're busy working on, and we're going to be talking to also Treasury, is looking at procurement regulations, because government is quite a big procurer. And so the question is, how can government, through the procurement system, enable more entrepreneurs to be able to make it through into the market?
Again, government pays lip service to a lot of this stuff. How do we actually get action? Because the process between opening the creaking slow door of government procurement to actually getting the deal done, unless you relate it to somebody important, is slow, long and laborious.
At times it is slow and laborious. In our case, what we found in recent times, I think in the last year or two, we've had traction from the city of Tshwane. There's a number of pilots. Currently, we've completed a pilot in the city of Tshwane for an innovation that addresses duplication of medication, chronic medication in clinics. And we are now going to be talking to the MEC for Health in Gauteng, to see how we roll that throughout the province. We continue the same dialogue with the city of Ekurhuleni. We are opening up township innovation centers with the municipalities. So in Soweto Empowerment Zone with the city of Johannesburg, we already opened one in City of Tshwane in Harankua Unit 6. We're doing another one in Tembisa with the Ekurhuleni.
How is this going to change the world of South African innovation? 5-10 years from now, we look back to this day, McLean, what would it look like?
Well, if you look at the work that we are doing in Gauteng and take into account that Gauteng accounts for about 34% of the GDP of South Africa, I believe that in 10 years' time, we will see more SMEs out there. We will see more jobs being created by the SMEs. I believe that we'll actually see innovations that are not only going to be addressing challenges here in South Africa, but also in the rest of the continent and globally. And the good thing is that if you look at the work that the Minister of Science and Technology, they've been doing, and also the DTI in terms of the support mechanisms that they're putting in place, and also taking into account the new Ministry of Small Business, I actually think that we are in the right place and at the right time as well.
Got a big conference happening, 24th, 25th, 26th?
25th, 26th of March. We are hosting the inaugural conference for the Climate Innovation Center in South Africa. So it's a launch of the Climate Innovation Center. And we're going to be having representatives from Morocco, Kenya, Ethiopia, the Caribbean, and this is hosted jointly with InfoDev of the World Bank.
That's brilliant.
And so we invite people out there with green economy ideas to come through.
There we go, McLean Sibanda. Thank you very much for coming through for us. McLean Sibanda, Chief Executive of the Innovation Hub. We're not short of ideas. We're just short of an environment in which to nurture and grow those ideas and to get the next Elon Musk and the next Roelof Botha to stay here and exercise their innovation rather than feel obliged, like people like Mark Shuttleworth, for example, to take their innovations elsewhere. There'll be more tonight, tomorrow. Till then, good night and goodbye.